Episode 28 of the 2016 Skyrim Modding Guide takes a look at city overhaul mods. We've got Dawn of Skyrim, both the original and director's cut, JK Skyrim and JK's Lite, and expanded towns and cities. This video is focused mainly on performance, but we'll still cover the basics and end it with installation notes. It's a long one, so sit back, drink your adult beverage of choice, and listen to me over-explain things as usual. Hey guys and gals, this is Cal from Nerdy Weasel, and welcome back to the 2016 Skyrim Modding Guide. In this episode, we'll be covering city overhaul mods. Of course, we've got the majors. We're talking about Dawn of Skyrim, both the original collection and his brand new director's cut. We've got JK Skyrim, the full version with all the towns and all the cities. Then we've got JK's Lite, and then following up with that, we have expanded towns and cities. When I first started this project, I was a little torn about how to go about it. You know, what new could I bring to the table? What could I tell you about how installing them? You know what? It was a tough choice, and it took a long time to put all this stuff together. But what I decided to do is focus more on performance aspects of the different mods, kind of give you my general impressions, and then you can see all the numbers and we can talk about the performance hit. And then the very end, we'll kind of go over installation notes. For the most part, it's fairly straightforward, and there is only one exception, that is expanded towns and cities, which takes quite a bit of work to get installed correctly, and we will use merge plugin script standalone to get it all accomplished. So let's go take a look at Mod Organizer. You can see what I've done. I went ahead and I installed all of them as per my preferred way of doing it. It's fairly straightforward, but you can see I just went through and installed them all, and then in turn I went through and clicked them and then ran through them all and tested them using Skyrim Performance Monitor to get what we're going to be talking about. So let's go on to the internet and take a look at the Nexus and see what we've got. We've got Dawn of Skyrim Original Collection by Blue Piano 2, mod number 58275. This was originally released in 2014, and you can see it's had some revisions. But you can see it's mostly, this front page consists of a Dawn of Skyrim teaser, some pictures, Dragonborn is required, all 5 major cities in one single ESP, and that's very helpful. Of course, when we're talking about the major holds, we're talking about Whiterun, Windhelm, Riften, Solitude, and Markarth. Other recommended mods are right here. We're going to move on to Dawn of Skyrim Director's Cut because it gives us a little more information about what's included and what's not. And you have Dawn of Skyrim, the Director's Cut by Shiverwitch, aka Blue Piano 2. It is mod number 77794. It is a relatively new mod. It was done in August 11th of 2016, and that was this month. And you can see as you scroll down, you've got some more videos of it. But this is the important part of what I want you to see. Original or Director's Cut. This is going to tell you kind of what is involved. Available as both cities and all-in-one ESP. Of course, we're testing the all-in-one ESP on the original version, and it is script-free. No interior locations or new buildings. NPCs will sandbox at the local inn when not working, and that has to do with all the little booths and whatnot in the different cities when they're included. There's no quest integration, and new vendors sell vanilla items only. With the Director's Cut, you're getting quite a bit more, and more is always a good thing for some people. It is still script-free. There are new buildings, including homes, shops, and temples. NPCs have detailed schedules and can be encountered in more places when not working. New interior shops are fully integrated into the Radiant quest system, including Thieves Guild quests. New vendors sell new, lore-friendly items and food in addition to vanilla wares. Many areas have been redesigned from the original version to further enhance the feel of the city, and many structures of foliage, laundry, and even more clutter. And even more clutter is a key phrase in this. But, you know, you go through and read this stuff. Installation's pretty straightforward. Frequently asked questions, add-ons, compatibility. We're going to look at compatibility. Please note that the compatibility patches for Dawn of Skyrim Original Collection will not be compatible with this version of the Director's Cut. Fully compatible, you can see all these things here. Compatible with patches, JK Skyrim's Lite, and there are patches available for that. Partially compatible and incompatible. You can see holds, JK Skyrim Cities component, the Nurny City and Village expansion. I never even saw that. Open Cities, never a good idea. And Solitude Reborn. And you can see some of his other mods right here. You can see the originals and the individual components of the original collection. All right, so we got that out of the way. Let's close these back up. We are going to move on to JK Skyrim. And it is JK Skyrim by J. Krojmal and Tbag86. It is mod number 61035. It was originally released in December of 2014, and it has a lot of endorsements and a lot of downloads because it is quite extensive. This actually is the all-in-one complete version we're testing to make it easier on me, but there are individual components that you can read, that you can go and get for the individual towns if you want to have them. But you come down and you read this. It is a lore-friendly and script-free overhaul of the cities and towns of Skyrim. Performance is quite heavy, and you can see the mod author's original components of his computer system right there for comparison's sake, and you come down and read the requirements. Not compatible mods, read all these. Future plans, I wouldn't worry about that. Recommended mods and his other mods. If you want just individual components for the different cities and towns, you can go ahead and go get them. Now, that one's out of the way. We can move on to JK Cities Lite and Super Lite by Nazin, and it's mod number 71018. It was released in October 2015. It is basically the low performance impacting version of JK Cities, and it basically kind of takes it away. And you can see this text version right here. You can see this edition of the cities is divided into two versions. The Lite version retains all the style and additional function of the original mod, but strips back a lot of the decorations or repeated objects as half the performance hit of the original mod. Mostly we're talking about plants and flowers, pretty. And then Super Lite even strips it back even more and gives even less performance hit. And you can scroll down, you can see all the different changes that are done to the different main cities. This does not include all the little townships that are included in this, but you can see what it changes in the big ones. And then the final mod we have is Expanded Towns and Cities by Miss Jenna B. And this basically expands all the towns and cities that were not a major hold city, not Windhelm, Markarth, Solitude, Whiterun, or Riften. This is all the other little places. So this is probably the one that's going to be the most interesting for, advanced installers because it has so many things. When you come down, you can see all the different places it covers. And it covers Darkwater Crossing, Dawnstar, Dragonbridge South, Falkreath, Iverstead, Karth Wasting, Kynes Grove, Morthal, the Orc Strongholds, Riverwood, Rorikstead, Shorestone, Solsticeine, Stonehills, Whiterun, Exterior Market, and Winterhold. Okay, that was a lot. Okay, compatibility. Please see compatibility section under the forums tab. And this is very important, guys. And this is where we'll depart a little bit from this. We will go into the forums and we will take a look at compatibility. And she does a very good job of listing all the compatibility issues. And there are tons of patches for her mod. And they're everywhere out there. And the same goes with most of these other mods as well. There's tons of patches. You're just going to have to go look for them. I'm not going to cover them all because quite frankly, they're just too many. But you can see all right there. These are all compatible patches. And then you can see all the no patch ones right here. Just keep scrolling down. There's a ton of those. Minor incompatibilities, major incompatibilities. You can see the towns and villages enhanced, small town merchants, city and village and expansion. All right, so you got that. And then you talk about JK Skyrim, what will and won't work. If you want to get JK Skyrim major cities only, she'll give you links to that as well. But this is all very important information and stuff you should read. But that's for that one. And installation is the most difficult on this mod because it has so many different ESPs. But we will get back to that when we do the installation portion of this video. Let's step back and we will go ahead and take a look at all the performance checks, all the video testing that I did, and we'll talk about that. All right, we're going to start off with a vanilla run. This is just to get some baseline stats so we can show what the game is without any of the city mods added. Of course, all the videos in this section are sped up to twice the normal speed so we can get through things very quickly. The game runs very, very stable at about 60 frames per second. There is one notable exception to that, and that is inside Markarth. As you look down on the Cidhna Mine area, that is a known low FPS point, and it will only get worse with each of the city mods installed. You'll see bigger drops as you go along. At the bottom left, you can see the statistics and all the numbers generated by Skyrim Performance Modder. In the upper left, you can see the number provided by Shadowplay, and in the bottom right is the after statistics generated by Skyrim Performance Modder in a graph form. Of course, anytime you have texture mods or anything that adds more objects or NPCs in the game, that can slow down your frame rate per second. But, overall, this looks pretty good. I, of course, have a fairly powerful rig and doesn't really affect performance too much. I'm running a GTX 980 Ti G1 with 6GB. I run a i7 4790K at about 4 GHz, and I have 32 gigs of RAM. As far as numbers on this, VRAM usage was about 2500 on average, and the maximum was just a smidge over 3000, but it runs very, very well. Dawn of Skyrim Original, and we find that overall it gives the game a nice appearance. There doesn't seem to be too much added in that affects performance too greatly, but you can see there's booths and different things scattered about. There is some different enhancing features such as more flowers, more accoutrement kind of spread around the cities, and it looks generally a lot nicer. I always like the way the Dawn of Skyrim kind of makes the place kind of seem more alive, because it also adds NPCs as well as more structures. You would think it'd have a worse performance than it does, but overall it does pretty well. Average VRAM usage is 2932, which of course as an increase, it was before on vanilla was 2500. Maximum VRAM usage is almost 3400. Frames per second was fairly stable. It was a little slow in the beginnings of Whiterun, Solitude, and Riften. The Markarth drop at the Cidhna Mine was pronounced, but not too bad. Windhelm performed very well, and Solitude was performed fairly okay after the beginning sections when you first enter the city. And as you look down upon the marketplace as you exit the fort, it has a small drop there. But overall, it performs very, very well. Not a whole lot of little drops here and there, but it did pretty good. And I always liked the way Dawn of Skyrim looks. Now we have Dawn of Skyrim, the director's cut, and first off, you'll see two little blips in the performance. You'll see FPS drop dramatically. Those were in my system. Those are not reproducible at any time in concurrent runs, but this is the one that showed up on the blips. I don't know what was going on. It just had two major spikes, but being that it coincided with GPU usage dropping dramatically, that's probably my system. It had nothing to do with the mod. Like I said, unreproducible. The director's cut adds more of everything. More NPCs, more objects, more flowers, more pretty, more buildings. It actually has more shops. And it generally looks overall much, much better. It just looks more lush and very full of life. You would think that it would perform worse than it does considering how much it adds, but it really doesn't do that much worse than when compared to the original version. Average VRAM usage was 2946 and maximum VRAM usage was 3432, which is just 100 more than the original version of the mod. FPS remained relatively stable. The drop for Markarth wasn't any worse than normal. Solitude and Riften in the beginnings were a little rough, and for the affected areas, that the same places that the original version had. Windhelm was very stable. There were a few little blips here and there. That's just because they're adding more stuff overall. But overall, it looks really, really nice. And for what you're getting for performance and the features that the director's cut has, it looks great. I think it's a good choice for anyone that may want to have it. JK Skyrim. Looks great. It always looks great whenever you come into here. It's got more of everything. More flowers, more objects, more structures, more banners, more of just about everything you can imagine for all the different cities, and it looks fantastic. But with all that stuff comes a big hit. Average VRAM usage was 3000, maximum VRAM usage was a whopping 3738. Frames per second were all over the place. I had big drops all over the place. Even in Markarth was the worst place for the Cinnamide, where it dropped all the way down to 38. But you had other areas that performed just as poorly, and you had a very large variability depending on where you're looking on frame rate per second. So this is a very pretty choice. It is very hard on your system though. But if your system can handle it, it's probably, worth looking at to see if you're not affected by frame rates as bad as I am. But, you can see why, we'll go on to our next mod. JK's Lite performs actually very, very well. And you don't really seem to notice that the biggest change is flowers and plants initially. It looks very, very good. You see a lot of the structures that you saw in JK's original version, but with some of the really big ones just taken out. Performance overall is very, very good. The amount of FPS variability is contained and the really bad areas aren't too bad off. There's only a few drops here and there when you first enter into Solitude, Riften, and of course that big drop in Markarth. VRAM usage was a respectable 2838 on average. Maximum was 3329, which is pretty much in line with Dawn of Skyrim, the original version. FPS variability was very, very stable. It didn't drop all that much outside of those problem areas, but it held an average of 56 with mostly 60 solid across the board. This would be a good choice if you're looking for a little more performance friendly by getting most of the features from JK Skyrim, but kind of maintaining the overall look without affecting your performance too horribly bad. And I think it's an acceptable choice if you're looking for a good compromise. Now we move on to the outline areas, and of course this is JK's Skyrim. I chose analogous examples of different areas to compare both JK's and ETaC so you can see comparable cities. And of course, JK Skyrim is very performance heavy, but not as bad as you would think considering how much he adds. JK's average VRAM usage throughout these areas was 2645 and maximum VRAM usage was 3094. Frames rate per second was actually very, very solid, except for the areas of Rorikstead. With all those new buildings and all those new structures, including new shops and blacksmiths and whatnot, it definitely drops it down. But, with Rorikstead, it makes it look like a prosperous, thriving farming community now, where before it was kind of like, what's all the big deal? So I think this is a good choice for the townships and smaller areas. It definitely overhauls Dawnstar dramatically. It would be a great choice for those other areas that you're looking to give more life to. For JK's Lite in the smaller towns and smaller holds, I was actually quite surprised on how much it looks similar to the normal JKs. It didn't seem like it was losing that much overall. But we do have a significant performance improvement. Average VRAM usage was 2581, maximum VRAM usage was 3034, just a smidge over 3000. But as far as frame rate per second, it was much better. It held the FPS stability very nicely, and the only major drop I saw was inside Dawnstar. As you look over the kind of harbor areas with that big ship, I would expect to have a bigger drop than it did, but it didn't perform that badly. I think the JK's Lite is a great option for all those different little city townships that, you don't want to affect performance that much because of weather and lighting and all those good things. But I was quite impressed by the balance between performance and appearance. I think it's a good choice. And now we get our first look at expanded towns and cities. And it's a real shame that I can't show you more than we already have. We have just the 3 examples right here. It actually improves it quite a bit without actually being performance heavy. When you look at performance for expanded towns and cities, you are really surprised by the amount that it adds, but it doesn't affect performance hardly at all. And it's kind of odd. In other words, it actually has more VRAM usage, 2700 on average, and over 3200 for maximum VRAM usage, but frames per second hardly suffers at all for all that it's adding. The Dawnstar area looks very similar to Dawnstar for JKs, but performance is much better. But overall, the performance is great, it looks super, and it covers so many different areas. I think that if you can handle it and your system is compatible with it, expanded towns and cities is the way to go, and that's why I left it to the very end, so you can take a good look at it. It just provides the best balance of appearance, performance, and overall coverage of everything. So despite its little niggles, it looks quite nice. So now let's go ahead and get these all installed. Alright guys, it's time to talk about installation notes, and you can see I have Mod Organizer up. I have all my downloads ready to go, but we're first going to handle this one in turn. The same way we introduced each of the mods, we're going to go ahead and go through each of the installation, what files you will need. Now this, of course, is the Dawn of Skyrim original collection, and it has 3 files that you're going to need. You're going to need the Dawn of Skyrim collection 1.2. You're going to need the Fishmonger texture quick fix, and you're going to need the upgrade to 1.3. Download those all with Manager. We will now go into Mod Organizer and do that one first. Now you can see it is right here. This is the director's cut. So Dawn of Skyrim collection, the Fishmonger, and the upgrade. These are all fairly straight installs. If you double click on one, you'll see it's going to be a manual install. You'll just have to go through and set all the directory, but we're going to go ahead and cancel that out. So go ahead and go Dawn of Skyrim collection, the upgrade to 1.3, and the Fishmonger texture quick fix is a simple, texture thing. So double click on these. You see it has all the same the name, and just go and set directly on those, and you'll go ahead and click OK and merge them in. Okay, guys, so that's pretty simple. We'll go ahead and merge this down, open this back up, and we'll move on to the Dawn of Skyrim director's cut. And you can see there's only one file to get. Download that with Manager. And you can see the director's cut. If you double click on that to install, manual, right click, set data directory, and you'll have a BSA, BSL, and an ESP. Leave that all as it is, and it's a simple install. Now let's go ahead and move on to JK Skyrim. And there is a couple different things on this. There's JK Skyrim's all-in-one. That's the one I installed. And then you have JK Skyrim's all-in-one Leafrest Riverwood, which is a slightly different version of Riverwood. Then you have the major cities. This is the one that ETaC mentioned in their compatibilities thing. the towns only, and the towns only with the leaf rest Riverwood. I did not test leaf rest Riverwood. I don't know. So it's going to contain its own ESP, but don't worry about that too much. But the JK Skyrim's all-in-one is going to be a very simple install, or Skyrim all-in-one, manual, right-click, set data directory, meshes, textures, and an ESP. Very good. So nothing really big on these. As far as plugins go, it's all very simple. And now we've got JK Cities Lite and Super Lite by Nazin, and there's only really one file to get on this, and this is the JK Cities Lite and Super Lite installer. All right, so we'll just go back into Mod Organizer and we'll install that real fast. Same thing goes with Cities, JK Cities Lite and Super Lite. There is a faux mod, so you go and click on that, and you're going to be presented with a number of options here. Dawn of Skyrim compatibility edit. If you are running Dawn of Skyrim with JKs, you're going to need one of these. Whether you want the full edit or the Lite edition, they both replace the Dawn, let me see if I can get this to say, Dawn of Skyrim All Major Cities ESP. It replaces that ESP, but still requires the BSA for the Dawn of Skyrim. So just know what you're getting on this as far as that goes. Optional files, we're going to click none on this because we don't want to replace the ESP. And then select whichever one you want, either the Lite or the Super Lite. I'll just show this real fast. If you click on Custom Options and click Next, you're going to get options for Lite or Super Lite for each of the major cities. Each time you do this, by going into the options, you're going to get separate ESPs for each of these. That's why I really suggest if you're going to be doing this, go ahead and pick either the Lite or the Super Lite. And if you wanted to use it with Dawn of Skyrim, choose whichever one you want. Or if you're not planning on using Dawn of Skyrim, go ahead and click None. Same thing goes with this. Go ahead and click Next. And then, whoops, let me go back. I don't want to do this. I want the Lite version. Click Next. And then the towns beta. This is going to add all the little towns, Riverwood, Winterhold, Dawnstar, all those other ones will be in there. Just read this note right here. Know what you're getting into. You would activate that and install it. So on Lite and Super Lite, you still only end up with the merge and the towns beta ESP. I would go ahead and leave this as it is for the most part. That way you can deactivate the towns beta at a later time just by moving it up if you just want to have all the other ones. Okay, that's just how it works. Go ahead and leave that as it is. And now we'll move on to expanded towns and cities. And there is some options you have to decide on this. You have ETaC Complete, which is going to be all one big thing, and you don't get a lot of choices on what you're doing. But if you're planning on mixing and matching different cities and different things, you're going to need to get the modular one. No matter which one you do, there's going to be a lot of ESPs involved once you start getting all the patches and different things together for ETaC. The installation for this, when you merge them, will be the same instructions, but you're going to decide which one you want. You want the complete one or you want the modular one. I installed the modular one because it's the more difficult to install, and I wanted you to see how I did it. But once you make that decision, you're going to have to scroll down and you'll see you have an update. You'll need to have one of the two files above, one of these two right here, and then grab the update for either one you choose. It doesn't matter which one you choose regarding the update. And then you come down to the optional patches. If you're running a lot of mods, go ahead and get the patches. You'll see which ones you'll need. And if you don't need it, you can go ahead and just cancel the activation once you see which patches are involved. And then you have individual patches for Ethereal Elven Overhaul, and then Immersive Horses. And you have the complete patches right here, and then the modular patches. Same thing up here, whichever one you chose, complete or modular, choose the appropriate patches, complete or modular, depending on which one you chose. And then you have Immersive Whiterun Verdant Grass patch. That's another individual patch. Manual installation instructions. Go and read this. I think go ahead, download it manually and read it if you're not entirely clear what you're doing on this. I'm going to show you the basics on how to get it all to kind of run, but let's go and do that. This is a big project, so we're going to minimize this down. We have now, like I said, I have the modular version right down here. This is already, we're going to install this from beginning to end. So this is the modular complete. This is the update for the modular, and this is the modular patches. You got that? So the modular main file, double click to install, you're going to get a faux mod. There we go. And you're going to have options, the MCM or not MCM, in changes or without in changes. Here's the thing, is that I always like MCM menus. Just if you have Sky UI, just run the MCM. Without MCM, you may not get all the options. I would say leave it on the MCM. The biggest change is going to be to the in or without in changes. If you do the in changes, it will change the lighting inside the different ins along with the changes that Jenna B has made. So I chose without in changes because I don't want them to change the interior cells and the lighting that goes with ELE and relighting Skyrim. Does that make sense? That out of the way, we're going to click next. We're going to open this all up so you can see it all together. There you go. And these are the different towns you're going to be selecting. If you want each of the individual ones, you can see good pictures with it. But just know that each one of these is going to add an ESP. So I went ahead and I installed all of them. Just go ahead and click them all if you want them all, or decide which ones you don't want or which ones you do want. And click next. Dragon Bridge South is different than Dragon Bridge. We're going to go ahead and select to install this because it has its own special instructions. And we'll show you that when we get load order correct. Go ahead and click next. Other extras, these are more ESPs, Orc Strongholds, Solstein, if you want Solstein, and the Whiterun exterior market. It adds a bunch of stalls and some other things. It actually looks quite good. Go ahead and click that one if you want that, and click next. And Darnstar Walls, this will use the vanilla texture, and this will use the optional texture, which is a little different. But whatever one you want, pick the one that suits your fancy. I'm going to leave this one as vanilla because it will use the vanilla meshes and or textures that you're already using. So just so you know, if you're using a texture mod that changes the walls, click 1 if you still want to see those textures. If not, you're going to get something new. Option number 1. Click next. The Morthal wall, same thing. Option number 1. And then the buildings, I've read this. The ETaC new texture options are no longer available. Vanilla textures will be installed by default. Horse saddles. Okay, not sure why this is in here, but whatever, I'm going to choose vanilla and install it. There it is. Open this up. Optional ESPs. You're going to have a bunch of ESPs. Now, you'll have not as many with using the complete versus the modular, but I wanted you to see what we're getting into. I'm going to close that down. Plugins. You can see down here at the bottom, we've got, where they all go? Are they all? Oh, because they haven't activated them. Boom. They're all down there bottom. You see them all right here. Okay, we'll come back to that, but we need to install the other stuff. You have the update. Double click to install. Let you choose which one you're using, the complete or the modular. You'll know which one you chose because you chose it. And I have the modular, so we're going to click next. We'll open this up so you can see even more. You'll need to know which one you chose. Dawnstar with ins or without ins. We chose without ins. We also chose Karthwasten. Morthal with or without ins. Without ins is what we chose. We chose the Dragon Bridge South add-on, the Solstein, and the Whiterun, and install it. And we are going to merge it into place. Now we have even more ESPs. All right, and finally, the ETaC modular patches. Go and double click to install. Once again, you're going to get a faux mod, and you have to choose which one you chose. With ins or without ins. I chose without ins, of course. And click next. We're going to open this up again so you can see all the different options here. And you're going to get a whole bunch of available patches that are included in this faux mod. Not all of the patches that are included here were included in the forums page that talked about compatibility, but you get the idea. Like alternate start, amazing Riverwood starter home. Go through and read all this, Atlas map markers. You don't really need a patch needed for that, but you can see, make your different choices. I actually have Better dynamic snow. Patch is no longer needed, but I've read it. Yeah, better fast travel, collect water from wells, Skyrim floor. Well, I don't even know what this is. Embers HD, ELFX. Select for options, but I don't have ELFX, but you'll get options on the next page. Ethereal Overhaul, permanently being updated. Thanks for your patience. All right, see, not everything is here, but that's why they talk about the patches that are available in that other section. Great Forest of Winterhold, Helgen Reborn, Immersive Stables, Real Imperial, yeah, whatever. Inns and Taverns by CJ2311, so don't get confused on this. And this is a good point right here. Lanterns of Skyrim. If you have Lanterns of Skyrim, you will want all these different patches for the cities you've already installed. So just so you know what you're getting into, it's replacing all the different ESPs that you installed in the main mod file, okay, to adjust for Lanterns of Skyrim. I use Claralux. Claralux does not play well with ETaC, and you probably saw in some of the footage of some of the townships, there were little lights and lanterns that were kind of floating or in weird places. That's part of it, right? So just know what you're getting into on this. One final note on Claralux. There are patches on Claralux page for some of the different mods we've covered today. Since I'm talking about Claralux, go check it out. Go to compatibility page, look at it, get the patches that are available there. Leaf Rest by Akmat. Morksum State, No Snow Under the Roof. That's a popular choice. And just some other little things. Realistic Needs and Diseases. There'll be a patch for that. So there's a ton of patches here that you really need to be aware of, all you Requiem guys. Here's your Requiem patches. RS Children, Shadows, some other stuff. I don't even know what these are. So go ahead and click Next, but make sure you choose the ones you want. Environmental patches, you can actually change some of these environmental winters patch if you're using a summer version for something else, like for Tropical Skyrim. If you're using a winter version for like enhanced landscapes, that is an option. You can choose the winter here. Of course, I'm selecting none. Go ahead and install it and merge it in. Now, when you open this up, optional ESPs, you're going to have a bunch of them here, but a lot of them were overwritten in the patches mod. If you chose some of the Lanterns of Skyrim stuff, they'll overwrite those. So when we come back over to our plugins and we take a look here, you're going to have a whole bunch of stuff and an ESM. So to save space and to save headache, we need to merge these all in. You'll notice that you have Dragon Bridge South and Dragon Bridge. Merge plugin standalone will throw an error if Dragon Bridge South is above Dragon Bridge. So you need to drag that up ahead of time before opening merge plugin standalone. And this is how we're going to do this. Let's open up merge plugin standalone. I'll get it started. All right, plugin selection. Make sure they're all activated in this category right here. The ESM, you're going to leave it activated, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. Go and click OK. Okay, the background loader is all done. Now, I kind of left this so you guys could see it. Now, you see some have check marks. That means I've checked them for errors. Some don't. If you have some that have not been checked for errors through the patching process, remember we talked about, it will go ahead and change some ESPs depending on the patches you need. You need to go through and double check. Merge plugin standalone is pretty smart. It will actually tell you when you have problems. So, or if you haven't checked this stuff, it will remember this stuff. Once again, you have ETaC resources right at the top. It's already been checked just in case. And then you'll have all the other ETaC stuff. Immersive Orc Strongholds, these are all part of ETaC. Now, when attempting to do this, we are not going to be merging ETaC resources in. And we are going to leave the main expanded towns and cities mod in place because of the resources. If we try to merge resources in to a merge, you're going to have missing textures. So go over to your options and go to integrations and make sure that copy general assets is not checked. You can go ahead and cancel that. Now, we're going to need to make a new merge for this. Go ahead and call it ETaC _ merge, or whatever you decide to call it. And then go ahead and name your file name the same. I just copy, there we go, and paste. So we are now creating a new merge called ETaC merge, and it's going to be taking all these ESPs and crushing them all into one thing. Click OK. Come over to your merges. Nothing's in there. Let's go ahead and highlight all these. Can't actually drag on this. You got to click each one in turn. Yes, I know. But remember, we're leaving the ESM not in there. Once you have them all highlighted, right-click, add to merge, ETaC merged. Go to your merges. You can see I've never made this merge. It is all green because we've checked for any errors, and it's all ready to go. Now that you can go ahead and highlight it, build your merge. It's going to crush all that stuff into one big ESP. It's going to give you a message about nav mesh conflicts, and the only way to fix that is to go in the CK. I don't find a big deal with these. It's not that big of an issue. Most of them, I believe, are from Dragon Bridge South, but I can't be sure. You can see Dragon Bridge Exterior 03. So this is, primarily from the Dragon Bridge stuff. If you were worried about this, you can take out the Dragon Bridge stuff, but I didn't find any major issues. Just some of the nav meshes were a little off, okay? It's a message. Thank you for that, Mator. It's always good to know this. And close. All right, we're back into Mod Organizer. I had a little technical difficulties there. And if you don't see ETaC merge right away, just right-click on something, click refresh, and it will pop up for you. When you activate this, you're going to get one ESP. Just like merging mods before, it'll tell you all the stuff that's included in that and any enabled masters, in this case, Dragonborn and ETaC resources, Skyrim, and update.esm. So we're going to need to take all these out. So just remember that this still has all your other stuff in here, as opposed to this has some stuff that are just merged in, but I wouldn't worry about that. See, I was just merging those ESPs in, but it doesn't have the main ESM. So I can close that. Now, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get rid of all these. And the way you do that is go into Expanded Towns and Cities, the original mod, go up to ESPs, and you're going to start moving these all up. Just keep clicking through until you see resources. Skip resources. Hit Riverwood and keep on going. Because we don't need all those ESPs because they're all contained in the merge.esp. You still have the ESM all the way at the top and the merged ESP way down at the bottom. Now, for all these mods, you're still going to let Loot handle it just fine, and it will do everything correctly. It will move ETaC merge into the correct position. If you're using something like Claralux, you may need to move them above Claralux, just in case there's any issues with that. Just be aware that there are patches for these things. I didn't tell you everything there is to know about these. These are very complex mods, and you'll have to just kind of go along and do your own research and figure them out. I have one final note. Holds the City Overhaul by Gellendale, mod number 74638. It is a very big mod, and I salute the mod authors for their vision, their hard work, and the scope of their mod. But that scope leads to a major problem, and that is compatibility. It changes so many things, and it is so large in scope that it has compatibility issues everywhere. They do have compatibility patches for Skyrim Floor Overhaul, but because it is so large and makes so many changes to so many areas, I just found it wasn't worth doing the compatibility troubleshooting to get it to work for proper testing. I wanted to point that out to you. I did look at it. I know some of you guys requested it. I looked at it and rejected it because of compatibility issues. There's just too many issues with it for me. Okay, guys? So that's all I got for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was pretty long, pretty technical, maybe not nearly as fun as some, but I thought it was informative when I started getting all into it and doing all the work involved. My name's Cal. I'm from Dirty Weasel, and I'm signing off.